People who are in a narrative often have no idea that they're in a narrative. But what if I told you that that narrative is just a lens that you are seeing your life through? And what if I told you that lens may no longer fit? And guess what, babe? It's time to throw it out. In this episode, we are going to explore narratives, why they're here, what purpose they serve, how to spot that you're in one, and ways to break free. Let's go. Welcome to the Good podcast. I'm your host, Dee Talley, mama, licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and embodiment coach. Here we dive deep into the realms of energy, consciousness, awareness, empowerment, and personal transformation to help you create a more vibrant and juicy life. Hello, everybody. It's me, Dee Talley, and this is the Good podcast. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. I am extremely moved. I saw a patient today who has been doing some really deep work and is in a very deep healing journey. And she's a faithful podcast listener. And she was listening to my Spring Alchemy podcast where I was giving journaling prompts, and she took them very seriously in terms of asking herself the question and really trying on what that felt like in her body. And she ended up writing this beautiful document. And I was just so moved by some of the things that she wrote in this document. And I took a little quote from it because that's what inspired this podcast. So she said, "People who are trapped in a narrative cannot see that they're trapped in a narrative. They are the people that need the most help. They are the people that we cannot give up on. It is easier to help others who have awareness and hope and insight. But to help someone who is blind to see, that is miraculous. I feel like I was blind before today." Ugh. So, what the hell is a narrative? A narrative is a story, whether it's consciously or unconsciously told, but that story is adapted as truth. And many of the narratives are rooted in trauma and culture and family roles and internalized beliefs, whether that is passed down through lineages or whether that is adapted through society. And examples of a narrative are things like, I am too much. I always have to be strong. I'm always the caretaker. I'm not the kind of person who could heal. No one ever chooses me. These are the types of narratives. But it's freaking sneaky. And why is it sneaky? Because oftentimes these beliefs are so ingrained, they are in our subconscious. They are underneath awareness. So we don't have the capacity to access them unless we do some things to help us access them. And so most people actually have no fucking clue that they're in a story, that they're in a narrative. And that is absolutely wild, because think about all of the people walking around telling themselves all these stories, all these beliefs that actually aren't even true. And then we adapt that as truth. Whoa. So is it true that if the narrative no longer fits, we can throw it away? Yes, but that narrative, whatever it was that we were telling ourselves, was adapted more than likely because it was trying to keep us safe. And so we're talking about outdated beliefs and things that may not be true for us to be safe, but because they're so old, they're ingrained. I think of this like highways, right? The difference between a path that's in a field where it's just 2 tire tracks and a full-blown highway, that is the difference in those neural pathways. The stories that have been ingrained in us are the highways. The stories that are new, that we are choosing to adopt, that are our truths, are the not so ingrained path yet. But, and I don't know why, I always think of this like in my mind's eye, when I think about new neural pathways, it's always in a field of wildflowers. And it's always like a sunny day with like these beautiful fluffy clouds in the sky. And I'm driving in this like old Jeep and I'm on a path that I can hardly see, right? You can just kind of make out the stamped down tire tracks in this field of wildflowers. But the more that we drive on the paths, the more this becomes ingrained. And then eventually, maybe we'll decide, hey, I'm going to put gravel here. Now I'm going to pave this bitch. Now it needs exit signs and ramps and lights and flashing signs, right? Because we have to keep repeating our new narratives in order for them to create these more permanent tracks. And that is how I think about neural pathways. So because the narrative lives below the surface, right, below our conscious awareness, we have to be a bit covert as we try to understand whether or not we are stuck in a repeat pattern. Okay, so the first important thing to say about this is what is actually true is our somatic experience of our body's truth. So this is the sensory clues that your body is always giving you. Always. Now, there's always constant messages coming up and signals, and it's our job to interpret them, not to make them good or bad, but to receive that information. And so if we can do that, which is why I'll have to just pause for a moment and say, a lot of people have a hard time explaining their somatic truths because these live in different parts of our brain than our frontal cortex kind of speak it out. Our sensory experience can sometimes be really, really difficult in order for us to say out loud. But this is why practice is a really good thing to do in order to have better understanding of whether or not we are stuck in narratives. So keeping track of the truths of your body and listening to those signals and interpreting those signals as just merely information will help you understand if you are in a narrative. Now, the next one is listening to yourself talk, like observing the things that you say. Are you in a loop? Do you say the same things over and over and over again, right? So an example, I always blank. I never blank, right? Talking in extremes. This is how I am. I can't because I'm too blank, too much. I'm too bad. I'm too fat. I'm too pick something. Fill in that bullshit idea of what we think is true. And that gets adapted as truth, right? So these are our loops. So disruption, once you spotted it, you can pick a different line. A new truth can always be possible. And all you have to do is practice saying the new truth. Whether or not you believe it yet, try on saying the new truth. Because these are the stepping stones to getting that pathway paved in your mind. Watching for your behavior. So this is like your life as an observer, right? So like you're going to listen to yourself talk. You're going to watch yourself in your behaviors. And what's the most important thing about this is the repeat patterns of the same people, right? So are you always choosing partners that are emotionally unavailable? or who are validating your beliefs about yourself, right? Do you always end up in the caretaker role? All your friends go out and get drunk and you're always the DD, right? You run away when things start to get a little bit more intimate, or you have to be vulnerable, right? So repeat patterns that continue to play out. These stories may have served you once, but do they serve you anymore? What I'm saying is this oftentimes is automatic, right? Because those pathways are paved and it's happening. You're driving that, whether or not you ever drive, to work and not even remember that you got to work. Like, how did I get from A to B? Oh, I was driving, right? It's happening below your awareness, right? I mean, the truth is that once you spot it, you can't really unspot it. This is the whole part about like once you see, like what I was talking about, the too much girl. Once you see the too much girl in the cage, you can't unsee her. Right? And you have the power to choose whatever it is, whatever story that you can tell yourself. So why the fuck wouldn't you tell yourself stories of amazingness, stories of success, stories of deliciousness, stories of wealth and abundance and fullness and friendship and love? Why the fuck would you not tell yourself those stories, right? It's because you don't know, which is why we are exploring these concepts, right? Once you know, you can't not know. Now, in the quote that I read, there was a part in here that said, those are the people that we need to help the most. They are the ones that we can't give up on. It's easier to help those who have awareness. And that's true. However, we can't actually see the stories for them, right? We're not able to awaken somebody who does not want to be awakened. And that can be really hard. It's like committing to carrying your own torch and doing your own self-work, actually giving permission to others to do the same. You can't actually do other people's self-work for them. So while I agree that yes, we can't give up on those who are stuck, we can hold space for them. We can be a mirror. We can reflect, but we can't actually rescue somebody who is not willing to be rescued. In healing work, there's always limitations for how far we can actually guide somebody who isn't ready. And I, in practice, I have so many examples of this in so many ways in which, I've tried in the past when I was a younger practitioner to be sort of a mind ninja to try to get patients to see their full potential and to see all the ways in which they can change their lives for the better. But the fact of the matter is, if they're not ready to make those changes, then our hands are tied, right? My hands are tied. I can't force somebody to do that. So we can hold space, we can be mirrors, we can be sounding boards, but we can't actually rescue, right? And then the other thing to mention is, if the person is not ready to hear that they're in a narrative, this can often be very, very triggering to the person and may actually even cause damage. When I did the show, How to Know If You Are the Problem, essentially, right? I had many very triggered people who are like, well, why the fuck would I just suffer? Like, I would never choose to suffer. I would never want this reality, right? I don't want this. I don't want to suffer, right? And in my mind, I'm recognizing you're not ready to go there yet. And that's okay. I'm not saying that with judgment. I'm saying that with actually compassion and awareness and love. It's like forcing somebody into recognizing their narrative can be extremely triggering, and that can cause damage. So essentially, like I said, carrying your own torch, doing your own self-help work, and if this person is important to you and you really want them to wake up, it's like holding that space for them is really, really important. But ultimately, it is not your job to do the healing work for other people, right? I can't tell you how many times I have had couples, like a husband and wife, and the wife makes the appointment for the husband or vice versa. And it's like, you need to come in here. You need to meet with Dee. You need to go to acupuncture. You need to take Chinese herbs. And then the person gets there and they're just like, I don't want to be here. This isn't for me. My wife made the appointment, yada, yada, yada. And so nowadays I vet people a bit more serious and I'm like, okay, if you don't want to be here, I don't want you to be here either, because that is not conducive to healing. There are other ways to notice whether or not you're in a narrative, and one of them is journaling. Now, I'm hesitant to talk about journaling because journaling can be extremely cerebral in a way. So I usually suggest a free write that's at least 3 pages long, like without an agenda and without any sort of prompt, because how can you actually get to kind of the root if you're very much in your own head? My idea is always, no matter what your journaling prompt is, the way to move through is to always, always be in conversation with your body. Your body is the star of the show, straight up. Your body is the star of the show. Your physical body, your energetic body, your emotion body, right? That is the star of the show. And so in the Western world, we are so fucking cerebral. Overthinking in loops and loops and loops is exhausting. Until you can actually be with that in your body, it will not alchemize, it will not heal. Straight up. You can talk something to death. I have seen patients who are extremely self-aware, who are extremely intelligent. They know every fucking thing that's going on with their health and wellness, but they're painfully uncomfortable to be inside of their bodies for many, 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 many reasons. But until we practice and reminding ourselves that we're safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, and continuing to show ourselves that we're safe is when those changes start to alchemize. Today I was thinking a whole lot about mirrors. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends about chronic pain, and I was saying how people in chronic pain feel extremely unsafe in their body, right? Because their body has always been in dis-ease, in disharmony. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be. Like, nobody actually wants to be with themselves when you are in chronic pain, like all day, every day, right? Of course. Now, here is what I said to her. I said, I've noticed in chronic pain patients, when the environment is created, right? So like in the clinic, I'll just give the example of the clinic. So the clinic is beautiful. It's designed beautifully. It smells beautiful. There's like really soothing music playing. There is warmth underneath your back. There is a healing, calm presence in me as I am holding space for other people. And it is a really nourishing place to be, no matter what you come in for. So what I was saying is, all of these things that I just mentioned, all the adjectives that I use to describe my space, actually act as a mirror in which the person can reflect, right? So some of these healing, safe, calming, nervous system regulating things are in place, and it actually starts to act as a mirror where the patient then starts to try on, okay, I'm in a safe space. Okay, what would it be like to feel what it's like in a safe space? Okay. And then through time, what happens is the safe space can start to be reflected and transmuted and alchemized laying on your couch when you're not at the clinic and trying on your sense felt experience of all of these different outside tools start to create an internal environment of safety. Now, that is not the only piece of the equation, obviously, but when we can bring these really hard emotions, these really hard sensations to the body and actually feel them is when they start to be alchemized. But this doesn't actually occur unless there is safe space, unless you feel safe. So what am I saying? I'm saying that you may not know you're in a narrative until you feel safe, right? And that makes sense, right? But you can borrow safety from other things that create that safe feeling. So it's actually a really beautiful thing when a chronic patient comes in and they've actually started to cultivate safety in their body, the transitions, the different ways in which they can relate to themselves. They start composting all of this pain, all of this emotion, all of this, and it becomes an extremely healing experience where we then say, the clinic and me and the tools and all the things, it's great. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. But all you really need is safety inside your body. And it is so fucking smart. It is so smart. It is smarter than your mind could ever. Your mind could never. Your mind could never be as intuitive, as smart, as beautiful as the way that your body is able to alchemize through safety. Ugh. And this is the whole thing, right? I was just having this conversation with my business partner, Anna, who, by the way, is instrumental in helping clients and patients come to safety, come to understanding their narratives. But we were talking about how the space and what we set out to create is like dropping a rock in a pond and it starts to ripple. And it starts to ripple outward. And it's doing the things that we set out to do. And it's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think that it's really moving, regardless of whether or not you're in a narrative. I think that it's really moving to be brave enough to zoom out and to become that bird's eye view, to look around and say, okay, what is in a loop? What am I noticing? What do I see? And is this the story that I'd like? Is this what I'd like to try on? Is this what I'd like to hang my hat on? And if it's not, we forget how much power we have to shift and to change the narrative. And truthfully, I am so moved that, I get to show up and witness the healing journeys and see all of the hard work that people are doing. And people say to me, oh, it's you. I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm so thankful for you. And it's like, baby, thank you. But I'm not doing that hard work. I'm doing my own hard work, but it's not yours. And yours isn't mine, right? So what I'm saying is, you don't have to give credit to other people for doing your hard work either. So just a little bit more about how to know if you're stuck in a narrative. And we just talked about mirrors, so I feel like this is coming up. Gently having self-inquiry and offering yourself like you're looking into a mirror and asking yourself the following questions. Do you feel the same level of stuckness in your relationships, no matter what the circumstances and who the relationship is? Ding, ding, ding. Repeated patterns with repeated people, right? Repeated types of people. Are you always the victim, the fixer, or the forgotten one? Are you resistant to new possibilities, saying things like, that won't work for me? Do you get defensive when somebody challenges your belief? Like, for example, when I challenged one of my patients' belief when she was telling me, why the fuck would I choose to be in pain? And I was saying, you're not choosing to be in pain. This is a story. She was defensive, right? And that's because she wasn't ready at that time to receive the information of the narrative. Is your energy cycling in the same way with the same triggers, the same reactions, and the same spirals? Does it always feel familiar? That is an important clue, a very important clue. You know, just like a brief tangent, because I was thinking about this, and I'm probably going to do a full episode about this, but I've come to the understanding about how time is stacked. It's like we have these ideas of like past, present, future time and like how they correlate, but there's beliefs nowadays that time is fully stacked, where past, present, and future actually are coexisting all in the same way, at the same time. And so the idea is you're not trying to be yourself, you're trying to become yourself. So I had this experience with an astrologer who was telling me about the chart, right? So when you're born, they take a snapshot of all the stars in the sky, right? And she said to me, your life has already been done. So like this snapshot, your life has already been done. And you know, there's a lot of ideas about predictive astrology and all of these things, but that's not really how she works. She was basically saying, like, relax and lean back. You're chasing, but you've already done it. You've already done this life. And I was thinking about how sometimes I have these experiences where it's almost like I'm on the path of becoming. It's not as if trying to force something, but I oftentimes feel like my highest self is leaving me breadcrumbs. And I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe y'all think I'm crazy to say this out loud, but I actually get like a tingling sensation in my scalp when something feels really familiar. And it could be familiar for multiple different ways, right? It could be, you know, experiences in a past life. It could be, you know, future experiences. But I always get these feelings of like my highest self and what she's up to, like right now, right? This isn't in the future. It's right now. Anyway, I don't know why I even chose to share any of that, but I'm fascinated by concepts of time, and I think that's going to be the next one, maybe. So if this episode stirred a little something up in you, you're maybe triggered. You're like, fuck that bitch. Maybe there's a twinge of discomfort in you. Maybe there's a spark of recognition, similarly to my highest self breadcrumbs. Or maybe there's a little whisper in there that says, I think that might be me. I just want you to know you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just repeating. You're not broken. You're not stupid. You're actually smart, because the repetition was what kept you safe, right? We want to keep you safe. But when you are repeating a story that no longer serves you, that you've picked up on, they're running on autopilot, and that can just be so disruptive to you and your healing journey. Don't blame yourself for the story. Honor yourself. Say, thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you. And now I get to choose something else, because I'm trying to live a vibrant and juicy fucking life where I'm wet every day, right? So notice, watch your language, track the loops, watch your behaviors, drop into your body, which is the capital THE truth. The truth, the highest truth. You don't have to overhaul your life and create a shitload of new narratives. All you have to do is ask yourself, is this story still true? And if it's not, then what else might be true? Okay. And if you, if you want support around this, you're craving more tools to protect your energy, maybe to ground into your body, I have something coming for you. And I'm so fucking excited. No, seriously, years in the making, like, is lighting me up in all the ways. Really exciting shit coming down the pike, and I am bursting at the seams. I cannot wait to share more. But anyway, make sure you're following along. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. Some crazy shit goes down on TikTok. Get on the email list, do all the things. And I thank you so much for following this journey and for doing your own healing work and trying to live that vibrant and juicy life yourself. I honor you and thank you for listening. And I will see you in the next episode.